All right. Kevin, back with you for another episode of the $1 Million Relationships Podcast. And Brittany, this is so cool to have you here today. And Brittany and we met, I don't know how long it's been. I know we were talking before we hit the record button. It's been about 3-4 years since we've even seen each other. And I would imagine it's probably been 6-7 years since we met each other to start with. Is that about right?
Yeah, I think that sounds pretty darn close.
Yeah. And we met each other in Genius Network. So yeah, I'm really excited to be having this conversation with you today. And you had ended up reaching out to me not too long ago, about a week or two ago, but I guess, time flies. It's faster than that. There's more than that. So maybe more like a month ago, to connect me with somebody that you'd done an interview with. And as a result of that, I'm like, oh my gosh, Brittany, I got to get you on this podcast. And so here we are. And I am really excited to have this conversation. What we'll do is, we'll start with, I'll just kind of turn over to you and let you share a little bit about what you do, who you serve, what motivates you to do what you do. And we'll just kind of give everybody a little bit of context on who is Brittany Anderson.
Yes. So I feel like that's a loaded question. So I guess in true entrepreneurial fashion, I get the great fortune of serving a lot of different people, but the core of it is my whole passion, my whole purpose, and who I serve. It's helping people build a life beyond wealth. And that means a few different things. So I am currently president and one of 4 partners at Sweet Financial Partners, a wealth planning firm out of the lovely Southern Minnesota. We have clients all across the nation and really have a core focus of helping people live their dreams and pursue possibility. And, we get to work with people that have already accumulated wealth. They know what it means to build success, but they don't always take the time to truly carve out a meaningful life. So that's the core business. And then I also serve a couple different demographics. We actually coach financial advisors to have them not reinvent the wheel, teaching people all across the country on how to create a well-oiled machine, how to build an engaged team, and how to really enhance their culture. Again, helping them build their life beyond wealth too. And then I guess the newest thing, again, true entrepreneurial fashion, we actually have an entire platform that we're building out that really takes this to the next level. So focusing on not only wealth, but health and longevity, purpose, legacy, experiences, and really serving those people that they know that there's more, they want more, and they want access. So that's a little bit about what I do. The why behind it, I grew up with a single mom and watched her struggle a lot. And for me, being able to help people realize possibility beyond what they see in front of them has been so fulfilling, because it's kind of amazing. It doesn't matter where you came from. What matters is what you're going to, and being able to open up that too for people is so fulfilling. And it fills my cup.
That is awesome. That is awesome. Well, okay. So what I want to do now is we'll shift gears just a little bit. And I'm going to reiterate the question for the benefit of all the listeners. Have you ever been introduced to a person that completely changed the course of your life or your business, so much so that much of what you have today would not even be possible if not for this person? And Brittany, I'm really excited to hear your story, your experience around this, as well as just give you the opportunity to honor somebody who has had such a profound impact on your life.
Yeah. First of all, I love that you're doing this, Kevin. This is such a great blessing to so many people. And I would say for me, the person who has been the biggest impact and that big introduction was and is the founder of Sweet Financial Partners, Brian Sweet. It's interesting to give a little backstory. When I first started with the company and kind of started fostering a relationship and, really getting to know Brian and that crazy entrepreneurial mind of his, it was intimidating at first. And, I had really been trying to kind of work my way up in the company. And I felt this calling to do more. And at first he honestly was a little bit skeptical because we didn't work together. Like we weren't close. He was like the guy creating stuff in the corner. And I was the gal that was kind of helping, get the ship moving in the right direction. And as soon as I started having these really honest conversations and spending more and more time with him, there was something that started to kind of build there. And we realized we had this commonality in creating even more impact than what the company was doing at the time and what we were doing at the time. So, when I think about kind of a door opening to possibility for myself, Brian was in strategic coach. I'm sure that your listeners are familiar with Dan Sullivan and strategic coach. And, he opened the door there to, have me be part of that program as well. Brian and I joined Genius Network together, and that opened a ton of doors. And it's just been a really interesting journey, thinking about that relationship, how it's cultivated. And if I were to go to the core of it, as we started working closer and closer, man, that guy has been the biggest cheerleader for me. Seeing possibility in me and seeing capabilities that I maybe didn't even realize. So that's been huge, just to kind of lay the foundation there.
That is, and you're right. I have been blessed with so many people in my life that have seen things that I could not see myself, and as a result of them seeing that and them believing in me, it gave me the confidence, like, oh my gosh, they see this. Let me start stepping into this. And it's allowed me to grow so much as a person. And I look at like where I've come, especially over the last few years in particular. It has been just such an amazing ride, such a rewarding experience and stuff. And just to listen to you share your story and how you started working with Brian, but then it became more than just a working relationship. It became a friendship. It became this really important relationship between the two of you that now, because of that, the two of you have made such a bigger impact in this world together than either one of you could have ever done on your own. And
yeah. I mean, you bring up a great point there, Kevin. And I think about kind of the build of this. And, I think one thing is that truly great relationships, I don't think you allow the other person to become complacent, and you don't allow the other person to not fulfill their potential. So one of the things that Brian and I talk about all the time is that, he is great about kind of dangling these challenges in front of me. And I'm just stubborn enough to be like, that seems really scary and a little bit horrifying. And there's a big risk to it, but let's try it. Let's do it and let's see what happens. And, I think about how he is able to draw that out of other people, but still do it in a way where, I mean, the guy, he has so many talents. And if you were to ask him, he'll be like, yeah, I built a, pretty successful, wealth planning firm, and I have a couple other businesses. And he's so humble about it. And I tell him all the time, I'm like, man, own what you've accomplished. Like, you've created so much success for yourself and you've helped so many people along the way. Own that. But I think that's part of, his unique ability or his own skill set, is that he is able to help people I mean, this is a little cliche, but help people realize possibility and see things within themselves that he can see from a distance or from the outside looking in, all at the same time, while remaining humble and not even like owning his own strengths. So it's just been a really cool thing. It's been a really cool experience. And that relationship, I mean, it went from kind of scary, intimidating boss to, business partner, to now it's a dear friendship, and he's a great mentor. And, it's one of those things where he's like, hey, the sky's the limit, and we're going to accomplish a lot of great things together. And it's just really neat having somebody in your corner that is such a cultivator of opportunity and such a cheerleader.
Yeah. So when did this relationship start for you guys?
I would say, so I'll just give a quick backstory
Yeah.
here. When I came into the company, I was hired in as more of like a client service type role. I took a chance because I had come out of the corporate world thinking that I was going to, go into corporate, move to the big city, have all these great things. I quickly realized corporate world was not for me. I didn't like the kind of bounds that were put around. So saw this job opening, didn't really know why, but it called to me. I was like, I have to be at this company. And I don't really know why, because I know nothing about finance. Imagine a girl coming straight out of college, hated finance classes, hated anything to do with it. But there was something about this company I had to work for. Well,
Wow.
in hindsight, looking back, it was the entrepreneurial nature, hands down. I didn't even realize at the time that I have that entrepreneurial spirit, that I am an entrepreneur and I crave impact and I crave all these things. That's what this company stood for. So long story short, I really wanted to get back into more of a leadership role, wanted to potentially explore even starting my own business, knew that Brian had wonderful connections there. So an opening came up for an operations role in the business. And, again, young, sheepish Brittany kind of raised my hand. They had hired this big time recruiter. They're looking for people from all over the place to come and move to Fairmont, Minnesota. I interviewed with the recruiter, and that recruiter was like, Brian, what are you doing? Like, put Brittany in that role. Like, I totally believe she is the right person. Mind you, they had been offering like a Mercedes Benz and all kinds of crazy perks. So Brian kind of hesitantly was like, all right, we're not finding anybody. So we'll go ahead and give Brittany a chance. So I never did get the
You
Mercedes,
didn't get the Mercedes.
but I tease Brian about that all the time. But the moral of the story is up to that point, we had had very minimal interaction because of my role in the company. Once we started working collaboratively as a team, and I mentioned earlier, like really leaning into my truth. And what that means is that I started telling him, and this is again, very scary, telling who was your boss at the time, saying, I have this interest in coaching and I have this interest in, making bigger impact and helping people live their dreams and doing all these things. And when we started having those conversations, those honest, scary conversations, he kind of sat there and went, me too. I have that same interest. So that's really the start of it, is when we started talking about what else could be created. There was this bond that formed, and, he has a way of, helping, me to step outside my box and has always challenged me. And I have a way of kind of keeping him centered and, reminding him like, hey, let's do this together. I've got your back. I'm in your corner. And I think that part of the struggle with a lot of entrepreneurs is that they kind of feel like the lone wolf,
Yeah.
like they have to go it alone. And I think that's what we've been for each other, is this big encouragement and, open the doors to all kinds of opportunities together.
Yeah. What you said just now is so right, Brittany, that and the more successful somebody gets, the more that becomes true, that they have less and less people that they feel they can really talk with, that they can really connect with, that they can share what problems they're dealing with, that their opportunities, all of that stuff. It becomes less and less. And I have experienced this in just so many conversations with these entrepreneurs, which that's what motivates me to do what I do. Because I just want to let them just have this experience of really being seen, heard, and understood. And when people have that, when they are surrounded by people that they can just have a real conversation with, that changes everything for them. That changes everything for them. And so that is so cool that you and Brian have this role together. So I want to kind of like dig into like, what are one or two things that just really stand out in your mind that have come from your relationship with Brian that for a fact would have never happened without that relationship?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. That's hard to narrow down to one or two things, but I mean, I think about a couple things here. I think about, some of the different opportunities that I've had as far as, speaking on some of the stages that I've spoken at, just being around and building relationships with insanely successful, brilliant entrepreneurs who, I mean, there's some that, we have like a business partner I would have never met if it wasn't for the fact that Brian's like, we're going to Genius Network. And I was like, that sounds really scary. There's a lot of entrepreneurs there that are, perceived high level success, all of that. That's where we met. So, now it's like, I've got a business partner that fostered from that I would have never encountered, been able to build. I mean, we built businesses from stage, and I would have not been on those stages had it not been for connections that Brian had and people that he knew, and his reputation that he built, and him basically saying, hey, you guys need to pay attention because she knows her stuff. She knows what she's doing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think about some of those things, and honestly, I'll just give this example. Let's see, a couple of weeks ago, Brian and I were out in San Diego for an intensive with a gentleman who was helping us kind of get clarity around this new business, this new platform, this new concept. And I got up early in the morning and I was going for a walk on the beach, and I sat there, and it's going to get me. I promised I wouldn't get emotional, but I sat there and I was like, oh my gosh, like I feel so blessed. And sorry. So blessed and so grateful for every opportunity that I have. And that stuff wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for the fact that Brian has been such an encourager. And he has, not just like we're together on this journey and we bring each other through, but I mean, his trust and his faith in me, I mean, that's been huge. So I'm just in a constant state of gratitude just by sitting in San Diego, being able to meet in like flip-flops and comfy clothes and brainstorm with this brilliant entrepreneur who I would have never met had it not been for Brian. That's very meaningful. And I have 3 little kids. I have a husband, and I see just how much opportunity has been opened for my family, for my legacy, and really changing the trajectory, because I didn't come from a lot of opportunity in that capacity. I didn't come from wealth. I didn't come from, a chain of success, and me being able to change that path and change that trajectory. I mean, I can't put enough thanks into that.
Yeah. This is so interesting, Brittany, because, doing this podcast, I mean, so we're almost a year into this. We're next month will be a year into this. And
yeah.
When I started doing a podcast wasn't even on my radar at all. It just kind of happened organically. And yet now, I've had all these conversations with entrepreneurs like you who talk about their experience with these relationships in their life. And because I've known for a long time, that as entrepreneurs, relationships are the most valuable asset that we have. And you've just kind of reiterated that, and you've done such a beautiful job of that in honoring Brian. And, because this is like really twofold. What I want to do is I wanted to give people like you the opportunity to share your story, your experience around this, and honor somebody like Brian, who's had such a profound impact on your life. And of course, vice versa, you've had a very profound impact on his life as well. And, so that's one piece of it. But then on the other side of this, I remember Tony Grubmeyer, Tony's such an awesome guy. He's been a friend and a client for a while. And Tony helped me by recording the intro and outro for this podcast, because he's just got such a great radio voice, but when I was starting to do this, Tony was like, Kevin, I really like what you're wanting to do with this podcast, because the last thing the world needs is another Me Too business podcast, and so, but for the listeners, my goal has always been really simple. I just want to inspire and motivate them to place an intentional focus on creating more real, rewarding, and meaningful, and profitable too, relationships in their life. And, you have just sharing your story. I mean, what an amazing example. And so I want to thank you for that. And for anybody listening to this is like just thinking themselves, wow, you know what, man, Kevin, I really like Brittany. I love the way she shows up. And you kind of mentioned a book there. And where can people go to get more information about what you guys are doing and the impact you're having in this world and all of that?
Yeah. So a couple easy places, sweetfinancial.com, that kind of gives the foundation of who we are, what we do, who we serve. Also, my personal site, brittanyanderson.com, is a kind of general hub for a lot of the different projects and things that we're working on. And honestly, if you're an entrepreneur listening and you just want to reach out and connect and whatever, I answer all my emails. So Brittany@sweetfinancial.com. Love to connect, love to learn more about all the wonderful, brilliant things that people are doing in this world.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, any last thing you want to share before we call it a wrap, Brittany?
I think the only thing that I would say is that, I think about true growth in relationships and true growth in, your capabilities and all of those other things. One of the things that's been a driving force for me is really seeking to try to understand the other individual, like truly understand like what makes them operate, what makes them tick, why do they make the decisions that they do, what makes them mad, what makes them happy, what makes them sad. And for me, that has allowed me to open the door to even more opportunity and even deeper relationships. So, I think so many people spend a lot of time seeking to be understood. I think if more sought to understand, that relationships would be even deeper
Yeah,
and, foster more opportunity.
absolutely, absolutely. Well, Brittany, I want to thank you again for taking the time to have this conversation. I really appreciate it, really appreciate you, and just absolutely love what you shared today. So thank you again.
Awesome. Thank you, Kevin.